Her liver will fail before she reaches 40, Michael. Don't drink, at least not excessively. Best not at all. Maybe some wine with dinner, years from now. No more reports arrived. Lulu was gone, gone, gone. August had begun a week ago. To me, this was the real midsummer's day. So, too, I was part of a team named Hickey and Torney, each of us called Pat. I had mentioned to him that I knew where Sharon Dalton lived, and that he might happen to be around there or look about Carroll Playground to get another updated opinion on her. He didn't seem ready to pursue this. I happened to have met someone several weeks ago, Judy, down Maple Avenue at McDonald's, technically in Berwyn, after asking about the flowers in her hair and if she was a flower girl from San Francisco.
I'm from Jersey, my sister and I, she said, with kind of an accent, and we're staying with my aunt and uncle for 6 weeks just across from the baseball field at Maple Park.
I thought they'll be coming across to watch all the baseball games, and they did. Not that Judy wasn't pretty, for she was, but she seemed, well, ungrounded to me. Perhaps it was also that why should I begin a short summer thing and then just have it end? It was also that little comic book kid, Lulu, she at that rare and precious time of being on the verge of womanhood. But she was gone, wasn't she? And/or would have to eventually live with her father somewhere, probably. Judy had glued onto me, and I didn't know how it would play out, but this was life. Right, and summertime, in a youth that would never be so young again. I came to enjoy her company, although I couldn't really get into her Frank Zappa music, or her pot smoking, although I surely had more than a few, and had inhaled them too.
Isn't it great, this stuff, she always said.
I replied, yes, very relaxing, but I'm either too lazy to move or I'm turning into a stone monument.
You're stoned, she laughed, and that would be a statue.
Well, there was not any deep chemistry between us, but this is not to say that we didn't have some sweet and happy times in the land of eternal sunshine and moonglow. It just wasn't fully romantic, but to my relief, she let it be known early on that they didn't do any deeply sexual things back in Jersey, and so would not here either. I hadn't asked, but we had done some foreplay. Such things, though, didn't seem to apply to her 1 year younger sister, who, while a rather plump girl, seemed to want to do everything with every boy. Well, one was in vacation mode and the other wasn't. Well, aside from true romance, these freer attitudes were still surprising to me. Of course, I was in a Catholic school wherein the opposite seemed to be true. That probably the girls might have been taught to fear any contact with the boys, their holy of holies being so sacred that nothing should be allowed to even lead in that direction, such as even kissing, which is surely a deep knock above on the basement door. What instruction did the boys get? Not much. Lulu was right. I really wasn't very far ahead. The Catholics perhaps having retarded me, although I personally gave up the faith in 5th grade. Of course, boys and men can be aroused even by just looking or thinking. So it wasn't really that I was ever really heading toward the kind of chastity that many of the Catholic girls had developed. Still, I had been sheltered from one of human nature's finer expressions. We did see a movie of some stills in 6th grade showing a boy's thing squirting all over the place. Or that's how it seemed from so many droplets pictured. Way back in 1st grade at Ascension School, my only grade there, I sat across from a girl named Joanne, and one day I saw her dress rise up to show her thigh, and boy, I was in love and lust for a day. I then promptly forgot about females for the next 6 grades and a half, until falling in love with Sister Theophilia in 6th grade, until she quit and ran away with our young priest. I used to walk her home, which was about 10 feet to the convent. Love in 1st grade? Ridiculous. There was also a Jody, whom I walked home with, she revealing to me her butt once, but more interestingly led me to a freezer full of ice cream and popsicles in her basement. Now this to me was heaven. We were friends and had our pictures taken together, which shows that it happened, but I hardly remember any of it, but for the goodies in the freezer. My first day's report from Ascension, by the way, upon first seeing a Mother Superior, was that she called herself Mother Monkey. Well, Back to the Future. We kids busied ourselves with all things that were summer until a really terrible heat wave arrived and remained for 2 weeks. It was even too hot to swim in the big pool. Some roads began to melt somewhat. Day games were canceled. We retreated to my basement to play pool and listen to music. Elvis sang It's Now or Never. John F. Kennedy was running for president. I read his book, Profiles in Courage. It said that we should welcome new ideas without rigid reactions. Shifty Chicago Mayor Daley would have dead people casting ballots. Illinois might just carry the day. A U-2 spy plane had been shot down. France had tested its first atomic bomb. The heat wave broke, the rains coming for a day and a night. I ran out into the downpour and around the block. The next day was clear, and I resecured my note, now under a rock. A thought occurred to me. Lulu and her mother didn't even have a car, for her mother had walked slowly a long way that night to buy alcohol, or maybe it was that she wasn't supposed to drive. I stopped at Michael's and asked him, "Did you ever see that Lulu's mother had a car?"
No, and there's no car ever parked there overnight. Is this important?
No, I suppose not, but it means that they are poor. Have you seen her mother go out?
Just to Ensweiler's. Came back with a big bag of stuff.
You didn't tell me.
I forgot.
What about at night?
I wasn't looking.
Thanks, pal.
Oh, and Sharon hasn't been around for a while.
I didn't see her at the playground either.
About 2 weeks.
I looked too. She must be on vacation.
Yeah.
Hope she was at a lake or the ocean.
The best.
And, darn, I was planning to ask her if she'd talked with Lulu on the phone or had gotten a letter.
You never give up, do you?
The dauntless and the dreamers never do.
Which one are you?
I am both. One goes with the other.
And all these maneuverings like the note and me watching. Do you really think they're going to accomplish anything?
One never knows, Michael, and they may already have. Plus, I was the last thing on her mind when she left.
And when she got where she was going, you may have become the really last thing on her mind, as in forgotten maybe, everything there being different, freer, and better.
No, there were certain somethings going on as we talked to each other.
How come? Okay then, tomorrow will be the day or soon thereafter.
We are down toward the last few weeks of summer.
Yes, the time is nigh.
You know, Pat, you're my first real friend.
See, something was accomplished.
He smiled, and I shook his hand. He had become calmer, too. Well, the summer had flown by, and now it was near mid-August. It really looked like Lulu was gone forever, despite Michael's optimism, and mine, a goner indeed. She of my dearest glimmer of only one day's meeting that had lasted only about 20 minutes. Judy would soon be leaving, but thank God, I'm just too nice sometimes. I went to sleep early, for there was a big game tomorrow, but I dreamt of her. She was walking through a field of sunflowers, which to me were like stars come down to earth, and then she passed into waves of wheat and corn, the wheat waving in the winds, the corn ripening, she wearing a flowing dress, smiling, happy, and restored from worries. On the following evening, I was way down my block, in the late dusk, and across my street. I looked back, for some reason. I saw Sharon Dalton walking down the sidewalk my house was on. She slowed, but just a bit, and looked at my house, and then continued for a few more steps. I hid behind a tree. She was never around here, and Patrick Hickey lived way down the other way. My spine tingled. Something was up. This would be the perfect time to talk to her. But my father came out to drive the car around to our garage in the alley. She bolted, soon achieving from her gallop a steady and graceful pace in near no time. She already had half a block on me, and more. I pushed hard off the tree, turned, and raced in the direction of someone's backyard whom I didn't know, but they had a fierce dog, and I barely managed to flip over the fence in time, using but one hand as a pivot, such as in gymnastics on the pommel horse. I landed and became entangled in some laundry baskets and clotheslines. They had a dog too, and so I raced toward their front gate since I was closer to that end, doing the 50-yard dash, jumped right to the top of the gate and then down and back out toward the street. My father was still out there, fiddling with something in the trunk. I thus had to trace backwards, not really needing to be seen tearing down the street past my father when there was no chance to explain. I could still do it, I thought, for I was a runner. In high school, I would join the track team. Another house, but no good. Ah, Tracy's house. The dear older girl by 5 years or so, who had always played and watched over me when I was 3, 4, and more years old. When I played in the alley behind 1030 Winona, my grandmother's house. Tracy drove a car now, but her car wasn't out front. I raced through her yard. Her car wasn't in the garage either. I ran down the alley faster and faster and then added a bit of pace. My energy was boundless. It was going to be close. I was nearing Lexington, the street before Garfield. I hadn't yet seen Sharon run across the alley a block down, for Garfield had a perpendicular alley there, since the houses and stores faced Garfield, so there was still hope. Always note what you don't see, in addition to what you do, like the dog in Watson Sherlock tales that didn't bark in the night, and yet I knew she would take the alley instead of Garfield, so she had a gain on me there. However, I happened to have my sneakers on. I turned right on Lexington, taking what would be a more diagonal path overall, for Sharon had gone all the way down Winona, as I'd noted after nearly going to the dogs, so I soon quickly turned left on Home Avenue, and called in my reserves a bit early, at least for a quarter-mile race. It would help if she had slowed to a trot or a walk, which she probably did, or if I could get close enough to call or wave to her, yet I was still too far away for that. If there had been a truck going by, I would have jumped onto the back of it. A blonde streak crossed Home Avenue and then slowed down, she soon to be heading past the trash bins. I yelled and waved. No effect. Curse you, stars. I should have run past my father. There was still a chance she might just walk slow now, as out of breath. Plus, she was now in familiar territory, or maybe have to fumble with the key in the lock, or wait for a buzz at her front door that I knew the whereabouts of. I found a second wind, and then a third one, from love's energy unspent, and entered the trash bin alley just as she had slowly rounded left and onto the sidewalk of Kenilworth. An unheard-of fourth wind sped me along. I jumped a small hedge and cut across the grass, buying many precious seconds. I could see the lobby now. The inner lobby door had just swung closed. There was still a chance. I literally fell into the lobby and knocked hard on the locked inner door. She would hear it if she was going up the stairs or waiting for an elevator. The knock had gone unheeded. I knocked again. Nothing. I sat on the floor, exhausted, leaning against the wall. It was like that after races. You just had to get through it, and you knew you would, so there was no need to give in to a panic feeling. I looked at the list of names and their buttons across. There it was, first floor, the first one on the left. I was practically right next to her, but I was too late, and this was not really the best place to be lying around. I dragged myself up and out, somehow, which was difficult, but one did not have to do this right after races had ended. It was late. The stars had come out, so clear and bright. The hot summer had broken a few days ago, and the storms were long overpast. It's now or never, I called out to the night sky, and to Elvis, who is now recording Are You Lonesome Tonight, Bless You Stars. I went over and checked the rock note, still there. I talked to Michael. Nothing. He had been sitting out on his porch all day reading a book that I'd given him. He assured me that there had been no arrivals and that Sharon was back and had made her rounds that day.
I liked the book of poems you gave me and the mystery detective book, too. I've learned a lot from both. When I said that Sharon was back, you didn't even blink an eye or ask me anything more. Plus, you look like you just ran all the way here.
Good one, Michael. She was walking down my street, passing my house and looking around there. But she ran off when my father came out to the car. I gave chase, but she beat me to her home.
Ah, she beat you. I've got to hear this one.
And I've got it to tell it. It's just that I'm still a bit out of breath. Let me have a seat. I'm tired. I'll tell it from the beginning. It only ended a few minutes ago. Then we can discuss the books. Michael came over after dinner. He had waited a while to come and tell me that Lulu was back.
I didn't feel like walking over, plus I had to eat dinner.
It's only about 2 blocks, but food is good.
Well, I figured she had to unpack and everything. She got here late afternoon.
Good thinking, Mike. You did well, but the duty is over now. Here's another $2 for your retirement.
Please keep me informed. I feel as I'm a part of it.
For sure. I checked the note early the next day, and the note was gone again, with another in its place, in an envelope, which said, "Just got back late yesterday. Had to unpack and readjust. Lucky us, my father's taking his new girlfriend on vacation, so I get some summer after all. My mother and I have be at my aunt's most of today, not too far away. It's a homecoming party for me. Then I'm taking a nap. I'm coming to you tonight at 10:29 Winona. I don't know when, probably late evening. Be on the front screen porch or outside. Sharon scoped it out for me. I am new on top of new, signed, The Boss." I left a note saying that I would be there. Well, my family spent a lot of time on the porch, and I slept out there or camped in the yard all summer. Evening came and my parents were still on the porch, along with my brothers and our dog. I kept an eye down the street. I would have to head her off, I supposed, or they would all gather round with me and a girl who I hardly knew. Well, nothing happened for a long time, which kind of informed me about Lulu's plan. Plus, she spoke of a nap. My family went upstairs to sleep, our dog too, to the hum of the large fan that exhausted the warm air out and drew the cool air in. I was the only one with a first-floor bedroom, but it was too hot to sleep in during the summer, so yes, I'd be on the porch all right, and all night. I closed the windows to the living room so my dog could hear even less, drew the drapes, then untwisted some latches on my nearby screen, and stayed up reading. Couldn't sleep, didn't want to. The street grew quiet. Magic descended was in the air. Night had taken hold. The evergreens just in front of the porch swayed a bit in the wind. I peered out the front. No sights, no sidewalk sounds. Nothing. And then in a moment or so I heard some pebbles bouncing off the near screens and looked out and downward.